My channel. My name is Mehek. I hope you guys are all fine, and like always, I also hope that you guys are reading. Back with a very exciting book that I finished. I think it was filled with profound learnings, and I think overall it's not a new title. It's been around, and I think from what I was reading, it has actually impacted a lot of readers around. And when I was reading some of the reviews, most of the people have benefited from this book. The book that I finished is called The Courage to be Disliked. It's how to free yourself, change your life, and achieve real happiness. It is by Ichiro, Kishimi, and Fumitake Koga. That's very complicated names, but that's how it looks. It's a hardcover. Now, when I saw the title, I was very interested in picking this book, The Courage to be Disliked, because as a person, I'm usually, I wouldn't say constantly, it's got better with time, but I'm usually thinking about what people think about me and, seeking that external validation. So I thought, let me just read this book. Maybe it has certain insights for me on how to stop doing that, because that ultimately I think puts a lot of pressure on you as a person. So coming to the book now, the book is, it provides you, I think there are overall two major learnings that come from the book, or I would say takeaway lessons, is how to achieve happiness and live a life of fulfillment. That is what I think is the broader theme of the book. It's written in the form of a dialogue between a philosopher and a young man. So I think that gives it a very engaging and a refreshing, way of actually sharing some of the life's principles. And like I said, one of the broader theme, which is about happiness. So here it says, that we shouldn't be wasting a lot of time in making other people happy. See, we really don't know what people think about us or what they feel about us, so we shouldn't be wasting time in pleasing them and thinking about if they're happy or not. Instead, we should be focusing on our self-worth and focusing on our self-growth, and ultimately, which leads to a fulfilling life. Now, there are many key takeaway learnings. It's going to be different for every person, what is going to resonate more with you. But I think, I'm going to share some of my key learnings from this book. But before that, just touching upon this one thing, that because this book is written in a dialogue form, which I mentioned earlier, like dialogue between this philosopher and this young man, it doesn't sounds very forceful or very preachy. In fact, the book flows very naturally. It is in the form of a dialogue. It basically tells you, like, it's not forcing, but it basically tells you that you should be questioning your own belief, and you should also be ready for a different perspective, which basically, so the philosopher didn't mind the young man questioning him on his very own beliefs. But I think what the philosopher kept saying in the book was that the young man should be open to newer perspectives, newer definitions of certain words in our life, like happiness and validation and courage and so many other things. Now, coming back to the key learnings, I think the very first learning, which is very important in the book, is that we shouldn't dwell too much in the past or the traumas of the past. We shouldn't be seeking validation from people, because I think dwelling too much in your past and seeking validation from people, kind of constricts you and does not allow you to pursue your passion without any restrictions. Instead of dwelling on our past or seeking people's validation, we should focus on our own self. We should focus on the things, on the present moment, and things which are in our control, in order to have a better focus in life and control on our own self growth. So that was one thing. Another key learning, I think, in this book is about self-acceptance. There's this whole chapter on self-acceptance. So author says that, we shouldn't try to mold ourselves to fit into certain societal norms and expectations, because that's never going to happen. No one is always going to be happy from you. People have these different expectations, and they want you to look like this, feel like this, walk like this, or behave in certain way. But as an individual, you should be embracing your own unique your personality and what you're capable of, and which would actually allow you to pursue your passion a lot more. So I think I had read it somewhere that a lot of hobbies, or a lot of people are not able to do what they want to do. We have something called in Hindi, like log kya kahenge, or there's always this that I want a appraisal on this or a validation from this, so we leave certain things in our life. Just to give you my personal example, when I was a kid, I used to play keyboard. Not for a very long time, because somehow, in spite of it being a hobby, I thought, what if I'm not able to, play keyboard in a certain way, or what if I don't get that praise or validation from people, should I still go on playing it? So I think that is very wrong. So I think the author says that self-acceptance without seeking external validation is so important. So that was the second thing. The third one was an absolutely newer thing that I came across, and I felt it was so useful, is separating tasks. The author says that one of the key things about maintaining interpersonal relationships is separating your task from other people's task. So I will read something from the book which I think will make a lot more sense to you about this topic that I'm mentioning about separating of task. Just hold on. Yeah. So the author, as in here, the philosopher, is saying to the young man, you believe in your partner, that is your task. But how that person acts with regard to your expectations and trust is other people's task. If you're leading a life of worry and suffering which stems from interpersonal relationships, first learn the boundary of, from here on, this is not my task, and discard other people's task. That is the first step towards lightening the load and making life simpler. What another person thinks of you is that they like you or they dislike you. That is their task, not your task. And that is what separating the task is. You're worried about other people looking at you. You're worried about being judged by other people. That is why we are constantly craving recognition from others. Now, why are you worried about other people looking at you anyways? You haven't done the separation of task yet. You assume that even things that should be other people's task are your own. So he says, an example, remember the words of the grandmothers? You're the only one who is worried how you look. Her remark drives right to the heart of the separation of tasks. What other people think when they see your face or when they see your actions is their task. This is not your task. So you should be focusing on your own task for your ultimate growth, I want to sing, I want to play keyboard, that is my task. People, what they think about me, that is their task. I shouldn't be interfering or bothering or thinking about their task. I think which was a mind-blowing example and a concept that I came across in this book. Another which is a very important, this book is actually based on this Adlerian psychology. You can read more about it. It's a different school of thought of psychology, and in this I think the author basically, what they tell you is that a shift of perspective. So instead of thinking or being in a constant state of what happened to me, you kind of move to what I can do now, so we often let some of the traumas or some of the incidences or some of the experiences that has happened in our life in the past, we kind of cling to them and we kind of enter in a state of victimhood. So the author is trying to say that we need to move away from this victimhood stage, what happened to me, to what I can do now. to what are the things that are in my control now, what are the things that I can change now, or what are the things that I can have a better control on to steer my life in the direction that I want to go ahead. So I think that was also a beautiful perspective about, I would repeat it again, shifting from this whole stage of what happened to me to what I can do now. In life we often I think most of us have gone, just because I wasn't good in it, or it happened to me before, I'm not going to do it. We kind of cling on to it for an excuse. For example, I was on a stage and I was so nervous and I fumbled and I made a fool of myself, so probably I'm not going to do it again, or I messed up. Like I keep so again, very important example, the author says sometimes we kind of hold on to our excuses when we don't want to perform. Again, we are so scared of people's validation. So just to give you an example, I banged my car once, and from that moment I left it. And now every time people ask me, that oh, you drive, I immediately go like, no, I don't. And I immediately say, oh, because I banged the car. So the author says that that's not right. You kind of hold on to that as an excuse. So in life, if I'm not able to learn driving, I'm always just going to say, oh, because I banged the car. So I'm always holding or clinging on to that excuse that also allows me to not learn driving. And tomorrow, what if I learn driving, I fail or I bang? So maybe I'm scared of that. So that's the reason I keep holding on to some of the past excuses, which I think was a very interesting concept. These were some of the key learnings from the book, but what I want to share something about anger, which I came across in the book, which I think was again very interesting. So the author shares this example of mother and daughter shouting at each other, and immediately the students, the daughter's teacher calls, and the mother's voice changes. She picks up the phone, and suddenly she's talking in a very sweet voice, and as soon as she keeps the phone, she's shouting again. So the author says that anger is something that we employ. It's not a mode of communication. We actually use it to make someone submit to us, which I think was a very powerful statement, because the author says that you can use anger as and when you want. I mean, you can use it and then take it back. So we actually use anger to show superiority and make someone submit to us, not necessarily to communicate, which I think again was very interesting concept on anger. Another thing about inferiority that the author talks about, he says that feeling inferior and inferiority complex is two different things. So he says that, for instance, if you had a feeling of feeling inferior with regards to one's education, so you resolve and say that I'm not well educated, so I'll just have to try harder than anyone else. But what is not good is having an inferiority complex, because that's when you start using finding excuses. So for example, I'm not well educated, so I can't succeed, or I'm not good looking, so I cannot get married. So I think this is very important for us to understand. I've seen people, because I'm fat, I cannot get married. Because I'm not good in maths. Like I used to always say that, I'm not good in maths, so, maybe I cannot pursue a career which involves maths. So I think this is all, having an inferiority complex, which the author says that we should be staying away from. And I think lastly, there's this, I think topic of superiority there is this about reward and punishment education, that how as a human being we're constantly seeking validation, and that stems from our education system, which was so focused on reward and punishment. So the philosopher is saying, now consider example where you've been picking glitter around your workplace and no one seems to notice at all. Okay, would you still continue doing it? And the youth, the young man replies that I'm picking up litter for everyone. If I'm rolling up my sleeves and getting it done, but I don't get a word of thanks, I guess I will lose my motivation to keep doing it. And I think the author says, this is the danger of your desire for recognition. Why is it that people seek recognition from others? In many cases, it is due to the influence of reward and punishment education. Reward and punishment education, what is that? So if one takes appropriate action, one receives praise. If one takes inappropriate action, one receives punishment. So, we people think that if no one is going to praise me, I won't take inappropriate action, and if no one is going to punish me, I will engage in inappropriate actions too. You already have the goal of wanting to be praised when you start picking up litter. I think this is something that we need to question ourselves as a human. It's so true, whenever we're doing something good, we constantly or we immediately have this thought, which is behind a back of mind, that you want to be praised. Maybe in a small way, maybe in a big way, but you need people to notice you. And I think that defeats it, right? You're just doing good for the world or for yourself. Why is it so important that people praise you? Somehow I think it's linked to our reward and punishment education system, or our upbringing, as parents. We did something good, they praised us. We did something bad, they punished us. So I think that was again a very amazing concept. So this is some of the key learnings and topics that I came across that I thought would kind of motivate and interest you to pick this book, because I really feel that if you are ready, if you are someone who wants to challenge your beliefs, challenge your definitions of some of these words or ideologies, I think you should pick this book up. I'm not saying you would agree to all of the things. There were a few things that I didn't agree, but I think, like, the author says that you should be ready to open your mind to newer perspectives and definitions. You might never know, it might actually change your life, because like it says here, a single book that can change your life. So many people I know, successful people, have said all the good things about this book. So I think you should definitely check this out. That's all on this book review. Now, if you have read this book, please share in the comments what are some of the things that you really liked. But from my side, that's all on this book. I'm going to see you guys next week with another title. Till then, take care, keep reading and keep growing, and do not forget to like and subscribe to this video. Bye bye, take care.